Hey, folks, welcome to the Accessible Hunter Podcast. I'm Greg Trainer along with my partner, Mike Hudson. And man, we got our buddy Jamie Byrd on from Camp Freedom today. And I can't get the smile off my face. We were talking off camera here a little bit, and this is going to be a really good podcast. But first, Mike, what's happening in South Carolina, brother?
Man, I would talk about the weather, but you got me going right along with you. Law enforcement background and military background, and I'm digging everything Jamie's saying. You don't find places like what they're putting together and the opportunities in which they're enforcing. I'm excited to be able to share today's and see what we got going on.
Man, I can't get the smile off my face. And folks, if you don't, know about Camp Freedom, we're going to put some links in the podcast, but make sure you check it out because they've been doing some amazing work for years for our veterans and first responders. And we've had Jamie on before, but this is
Right.
really going to be a good episode.
Jamie, you're looking sharp, sir.
Oh, thank you guys very much. I cleaned up the beard and I'm trying to, persuade spring to get here, and do that stuff. So that's what I'm doing. So thank you guys so much for having me on. Is that Greg, Mike, anytime that I can spend time with you guys and talk about being outdoors and share hunting and fishing stories, it's a good day. So thanks for having me on, guys.
You
Man,
bet
shoot.
you
Go
you
ahead, Greg.
betcha. Well, I was just going to say you betcha, man. We appreciate it. And for the
Same.
for the folks that don't, know your story, Jamie, would you kind of introduce yourself a little bit and maybe give a little bit about your background for people?
Absolutely. So my name's Jamie Byrd. I'm the Assistant Executive Director here at Camp Freedom. I started out my career in the service. Is that I joined shortly after 9/11 happened, and I was able to join the U.S. Coast Guard. And I had a phenomenal career. Is that I tell everybody it's the best kept secret that's out there in the military branch. Is that I had the opportunity while I was in to work with every branch, the Army, the Marine Corps, the Air Force, and really work with every branch that's out there, and bring our skill set as a Coast Guard to it. And so I spent the majority of my time on the East Coast. I started out as a rated gunner's mate, where I worked on small arms, coming right out of A school. And then shortly after that is that the Coast Guard developed these teams, the maritime safety and security teams, that are primarily law enforcement teams, that were coming online, and I just jumped into it. So I was able to go up to Boston and be a plank owner of the team up there in Boston, and really cut my teeth into maritime law enforcement and what it was all about. For many, many years, the Coast Guard had really worn multiple hats with law enforcement and being able to have your rated job. And then as law enforcement missions came about, you just put your law enforcement hat on and then you jump into it. Well, realizing all these different tiers of teams that they were building is that the law enforcement aspect of it, the Coast Guard needed to capture that and have it as a specific rating and a specific culture that was there. And so I think it was 2010 is when they developed the maritime law enforcement specialty rating. And so I was able to transfer over with my skill set and what I was doing, and then did that. So I was already an E6, so I lateraled over and became a maritime law enforcement specialist as an E6, and then did that for a few years, and then I ended my career out in California. I was stationed at the Pacific Tactical Law Enforcement Detachment, where I was injured during a training accident, and it ended my career. It was a pretty substantial injury. I spent about 2 years in recovery and in the rehabilitation phase and going through the medical board process there. And so I was medically retired from service in 2015. So I moved my family out to Pennsylvania. Is that we had two small boys at the time, and the school systems and everything here have just been phenomenal and been great. And so we knew we wanted to come back to the East Coast, and we picked Pennsylvania. So when I first got out of service, I had a wonderful opportunity to work for the Wounded Warrior Project, as they were building offices here in the Philadelphia area. I worked for them for about a year. And then I went to work at the Penske corporate location, which is just right around the corner here from my home. And then found my way to Cabela's is where I was at. Is that the Penske white collar job was not necessarily the best thing for me, and so I found a job in HR. and worked at the Cabela's here in Hamburg, and I absolutely loved that job. I got to help people each and every day, whether it was the employees or the managers or the leadership team that was there. It was just absolutely phenomenal. And then I heard about this place called Camp Freedom. My buddy Will Dolph introduced me up there, and we went and volunteered, and I got to meet Matt. And Matt said, "Hey, man," he said, "why don't you put in for a hunt up here?" And I was like, "Oh, I'd love that." Is that I didn't realize, moving here to Pennsylvania. I grew up in Western Kentucky, and I would knock on doors and stuff in Western Kentucky and go and hunt and do some of those things. Pennsylvania's a little bit different, is that
Yeah.
they're a little bit more particular about who gets to hunt and who doesn't. So I got this opportunity to hunt with Matt in 2019 and shot a phenomenal deer up there at Camp Freedom. It was 198 inches and 5/8 and absolute biggest whitetail of my entire life. I don't know that I'll ever shoot one that big ever again. And Matt and I joked about it that night. The last night I was there, he said, "I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't know when it's going to happen." He said, "But you're going to be working up here someday." And so
Wow.
two years later, fast forward into 2021, and I've been there ever since. Is that I have this unique opportunity where I get to help people each and every day and do something that's really special. So it's a blessing to be able to do what I get to do.
Man, first off, thank you for your service. Thank you for all that you do, not only for this country, but for all the veterans, the first responders, and just so many people in general. Jamie, we truly appreciate you and you coming on. Me and Greg were both smiling when you were saying, "Hey, we enjoy this because we enjoy it just as much." Your
Yeah.
wealth of knowledge, man, but just your enthusiasm is always overwhelming. So my
Yes.
question
Same here.
Yes, sir. My question would be, as an executive director of Camp Freedom, what does that day-to-day task look like?
Yeah, so Matt and I always joke about it is that I'm the assistant to, as they say in the office, is that
Right.
that comes with a lot of, I like to razz Matt pretty good, is that, Matt was an Army officer, so I have to salute him a lot, and
Right, right.
there's a lot of coffee I have to bring him, as a good enlisted man would,
Yep.
but we have a lot of fun up there, and at the executive level. We are dealing with everything from the day-to-day operations to our fundraising, to our strategic visions moving forward, to the projects and various things that we have going on up there. And then, the other piece of this is that understanding what we can do better in the space. It's not only what we're doing as a nonprofit, but to understand other nonprofits and then to understand how we can collaborate with them and work with them together to make sure that veterans and first responders are getting everything that they need so that they can be successful in society and be partners and to get back to their normal day-to-day lives. So those are things that we're always striving to do. We're always working to be better at and push this thing forward so that Camp Freedom is not only this beacon of hope and respite for our veterans and first responders to come up there and be a part of, but to not only do that, but to be a leader as a national nonprofit to go. We can use alternative medicine, the outdoor space, to
Hmm.
bring these men and women back to their normal selves. So
It's an amazing thing what you guys are doing, and you've been doing it for years. And it's not only, taking people out hunting, but you're concentrating on their day-to-day lives
Yep.
and bringing resources throughout the community together to benefit the veterans and first
Hmm.
responders and saying what's available in your area. And I know you guys have, several different programs that we always talk about. And if you could talk a little bit about your Friday breakfast and what that's about, Jamie.
absolutely, one of the things that we recognized very early on, Greg, is that, and what we've always wanted Camp Freedom to be, is that we never wanted Camp Freedom to be a one and done place. Is that
Right.
there are tons of nonprofits that are out there, and God bless them for doing all the great work that they're doing. But sometimes because of their capacity, is that you go maybe to this one ranch, you get to do one hunt, or you get to do one fishing trip, and then that's it, right? And it's a great thing because it can bring men and women back into the outdoors. But how do we carry those things on? And so what
Hmm.
we recognized is that what we talk about a lot of times is that we want to meet men and women where they are on their particular journey. So we're not an inpatient program, we're not an outpatient program. Sometimes just coming up to fish is really all that they need, right? Spending a day on the pond is all that they need. And then sometimes is that they may need several other resources to get things in line, and whether that's reconnection through the VA, whether that's food during that day, or whether that's getting linked into PA Career Link to where they can start shopping the resume and get the jobs that they need. And what we've always done is recognize that we do the outdoor space very, very well, but we
Hmm.
need these other partners to bring this holistic approach to these men and women to bring them back to full capacity, right? And so we've always had them at our fingertips. So we go, okay, well, how can we have this be a tangible thing, right? To where we bring these resources here to our facility. And what we recognize is that a lot of times in the veteran and first responder community, and Mike, you can speak to this, is that a lot of times we're very standoffish, right? Is that we're
Oh
like,
yeah.
that's a good thing, but I really don't know if that's for me.
Hmm.
And what we recognize is that if we can have men and women that are familiar with us at Camp Freedom and how we conduct business and what we're doing, we can introduce them to these other organizations to go, hey, have you checked on your VA benefits, right? Is that have you looked at, we have the Carbondale chiropractor that comes up, right? Have you talked to a chiropractor about maybe getting some of their services and what they're doing? We can put them all in one location so that these men and women can come up on a Friday. We do this the first Friday of every month to where we allow them to set up an informational table there and bring their resources to the table. And then we also have the Weinberg Food Bank as well as the Homestead Food Bank that's there that can provide food for needy families and for people that are there. And so I always encourage folks is that even if it's something that you don't need in your particular life, if you know of a veteran or a first responder that could use those resources, is that we can set you up to where you can take that to them and help them out as well. So,
Jamie, you touch on a lot of good points, man, and it comes back. Some of the veterans might say, like you just did, this is it's good, but it's not for me. Some of it
right,
is, a lot of vets just don't feel like they rate. And
right,
that's one of the things that it's not a humble because I'm trying to act like anything. Most veterans are your go-getters. They want to stand and kick doors and go do it, but they never
mhm,
feel like they fully rate anything.
right,
And thank you guys for doing it and saying exactly what you just said. It's about respite care, treating that
mhm,
veteran as an individual, but also treating the family, treating the dynamic, not just treating an episode, but being able to treat them holistically and bringing in more and more. And for kudos again, thank you guys for working with other organizations. Unfortunately, we
absolutely.
see a lot of nonprofits that just will not do it, and
Mhm,
it's like they're scared to lose a name, face, or a dollar. And
yep.
my thing is, if we're doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do, it all will come to fruition.
Absolutely. Is that what we've seen and just like in our particular space, right? And I always encourage veterans and first responders to come up. And just like what I was having this conversation, there was a news reporter that was having a conversation with me, and they go, "Well, you guys, you do all this stuff, but it's really like it's kind of like being at a state park, right? Except for it's for veterans and law enforcement." And I always talk about that, and just because he just didn't know. And I said, "Well, have you ever been to a state park on a Saturday?" Right? I said, I'll start with that one. Said number two, I said, with our law enforcement partners, especially, is that they can't go to a state park or they can't even go and take their family out to a restaurant without
Hmm.
bumping into someone that they've bumped into in the community, or
Right.
maybe they've had a negative interaction with, or they've done something. So we want that environment to be very safe and very relaxed for them. And I
Yep.
always tell them is that so our staff is made up of veterans, first responders, or family members of, and the people that are there around them. And what we get the unique opportunity to do is to see this peer-to-peer interaction to where maybe they meet fishing on the pond or maybe they meet on our 3D archery course. And now they've got this relationship outside of Camp Freedom. So they get
Hmm.
together and they go shoot 3D archery at other places, or maybe they go fish at a different location, right? But they're building these relationships outside of Camp Freedom because they met there on our particular grounds. It's one of those things too, is that like as we talk about in the nonprofit space, our mission is to always help and serve our veterans, first responders, Gold Star family members. And if they get that from a different organization, that's fantastic,
Right.
right? And we want that, and we want to welcome that into our particular space. Is that I always tell other nonprofits that are like-minded, that want to help veterans and want to come up and use our space. We have 2,350 acres. Is that if they want to host an event or they want to do a retreat that's on our space, is that we'll let them use that for free, just because it helps the at the end goal, it helps our veterans and it helps our first responders. And that's truly what it's all about. And I think that's what happens a lot of times is that you get in this space and people fight and they're trying to struggle for donors, or they're trying to struggle to be relevant in the space and everything like that, and they just lose sight of what the true mission is. And so we
Mhm.
always keep that in mind to go, listen, if Camp Freedom is the answer for you, and it encompasses everything that you got going on, great, that's fantastic. But maybe we only play this little small piece in it. Maybe we
Mhm.
reignite this spark in you to go, hey, I'm going to go join my local Trouts Unlimited organization, right? Or hey, there's a hunting group that's down there, that's close to where my house is. Is that I'm going to get involved with a hunting group because I realized at Camp Freedom I can hunt again and I can get back out in the
Hmm.
woods again. So we always work towards that goal.
Yes, sir. One of the key things that I think you guys do really well is you use the outdoors, hunting, fishing, uh, rafting, is you said earlier too. You use that as a gateway or a bridge that, brings these people into the community where they can build bonds with other veterans, other first responders.
Mhm.
And before you know it, it's not a 1 day a year thing. It's, hey, we're doing things on the weekend. We're doing the breakfast every month. It's an opportunity for them to build relationships in their community with other like-minded people.
Absolutely. Is that we get to see that peer-to-peer interaction, right? And so when we bring these men and women in, is that we're not, it's not a disguise to, okay, well, once we get you in there, then we're going to do these, we're going to sit down, we're going to do counseling sessions, or we're going to do some of these other things. Now we have all that stuff that's to the backside of it, but we just want you to come there and be yourselves and enjoy
Mhm.
the outdoors. Is that we're not hiding anything, or we're not going to play a gotcha game when you get there. Is that you get to come there and enjoy the outdoors, right? And so as you're doing those things, just like what we always do, when you're there, is that as you're fishing with somebody, you don't start out telling them everything that's going on in your day-to-day life on the
Mhm.
first fishing trip. Well, now after you've fished with this person several times and you've been out in the boat a few times and you've done some of those things, is that it's a lot easier to say, hey, I'm really having a tough time paying my bills, or hey, I'm having a really tough time um, doing my day-to-day job, and I need some help. And so we're able to provide this environment to build these deep-seated relationships to where you can go, yeah, I really do need help here, and this is what I'm looking for. So, and just as you guys know, the outdoors brings that on. Is that intimate setting when you're sitting in a blind with somebody for that long, or you're sitting in a fishing boat, or you're just being quiet, listening to nature, is that it just opens the doors for those conversations to happen naturally.
Man, you bring up a lot of great points every time we get to chat with you. But it's about getting that veteran or first responder or family member out of their headspace and just back outdoors where they can kind of get to a normal groove. And
Yeah,
there's a saying out there that says nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And so these veterans are not going to tell you their deep, dark secrets. It's just not going to happen until they get to know that you are the real deal and you understand them. One, but you're not going to be judgmental. Two, and then three, are you going to really be there for them? Because all too often, we go through, and Jamie, you get it. You take a young guy or girl in their early teens and you put them in a scenario, training scenarios, and you teach them to be completely self sufficient. And they learn to do all the things they need to do to survive or take life or whatever. And then all of a sudden, you tell them, now you're good to go, and you send them out in the world, right? And then when they go and break down enough, they need help, and organizations deny them the assistance, they're never going to ask again. And you guys are doing something that brings them into a space where they can open up under their terms.
absolutely. And you're exactly right. Is that in these fields, especially the what we see more than anything is that it takes a person that has been through so much to finally get to that point where they're like, okay, I need to go ask somebody for help, right?
Hmm.
And if
Yep.
they have a negative interaction with somebody, and whether that's through medical care, or whether it's through the
Right.
VA, or whether it's through another organization, is that then they just shut down. And then it's like,
Yep.
well, why did I even ask? Why did I even do this stuff?
Yep.
Right. And so we're always talking about is that we only have one chance to make a first impression. We
Yep.
only have one time to interact with that person and talk to them about what it is that we're doing and what we have going on. The other thing that I love so much about, what you guys do is that the other thing that we work on at Camp Freedom is that we don't focus on the person's trauma. We
Mm,
don't focus on, okay, this was the worst day of your life, right? That this thing happened to you. But what are the steps that you can do now to be successful? What are the steps that you can do to go, look at these examples, right? Look at Greg, look at Mike, look at what they're doing to go, you know what, you're telling me that you can't get outdoors, but look at the example that they're setting, right? Is that
Right.
there's a way for you to do this. And whether it's hunting, fishing, scuba diving, jumping out of planes, is that trauma does not define you. It does not stop your
right.
life where you are. Is that it's just a speed bump along the road. And so I love what you guys do, and that's always our method. That's always our mentality. Is that we
Mm.
never focus on yes, you went through some bad things. Yes, is that you're having a tough time now, but what can we do to be better? How can we take those steps to be a better person?
Wow. Wow. That's just very well said, Jamie. And it's a matter of building trust with these people because as you and Mike have both said, we're not going to disclose our worst fears, our worst middle of the night things that keep us awake on the first visit. If you ask a person with a disability 9 times out of 10, how are you doing? I'm doing fine. Everything's good. But
Yep.
but that's not always the case. Mike's laughing because
Yeah.
we give that
Yep.
standard answer to probably 10 people a day. How you doing? What's your pain level? Oh, I'm fine.
Good to go.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
What's your pain level? Well, I'm at about a 5 every day of my life for the last 27 years. But
Yep.
you don't want to hear that. You want to hear everything's fine. So we're
Right.
we're kind of laughing a little bit about that, but it's really a matter of building trust and being a facilitator to so many other groups. And you speak for the community when you're introducing these other nonprofits
Mm.
and you're saying, I trust these people, so you can too. And
Yep.
and you're really, building a community around that veteran or first responder.
Yeah, and it's so important, is that step is to go, hey, these are good folks, right? Is that let me walk you over and talk with them. It's so important, and to have that trust level, with them to where, they'll call us and we'll talk and we'll be able to talk about things offline and then say, hey, you come to the day of care and then I'll introduce you to this person or hey,
Yep.
I know you're going through X, Y, or Z, but let me introduce you to this person. And then the other part is those resources and those folks that are there will take those phone calls. And I
Yep.
won't go
Mhm.
into details of it. Is that I was on a call this weekend with one of our partners, and I said, listen, and I hears kids in the background and everything, and I said, I'm so sorry I had to call you on the weekend and do this stuff. And he's like, brother, this is what we do. He said, this
Yep.
is
Right.
this is part of it. And I've known him for so long. Is that's where we are. But where someone will reach out to me, I can pick up the phone and make those phone calls and get that person the care and stuff like that that they need. And it's really, at our core, that's what we're trying to do. Is that we love the outdoors and there's so much healing properties and in what we do. But caring for people is really who we are at the end of the day.
It's
And
about developing that communication, that community, and the relationship. They know that you're in it for the real deal.
Yeah.
you almost have a Rolodex in your head, when you're talking to somebody that this personality would match up with this person's
Yep.
personality. And when you're talking with somebody, and Mike and I do this as well, that hey, this person would be a good resource for so and so. And hey, can I put you guys on a group chat together? And
Yeah.
you need to talk to so and so. And Jamie, I kind of used you as a resource this month
Yeah.
with Pennsylvania Assistive Technology Foundation was looking to
Yeah.
meet up and do a couple of things. And I said, I got just the guy, and I
Yeah.
put you guys together. And the Rolodex that we have, it's a small community, even if it's worldwide.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's really, that's how the sausage is made.
Yep.
At the end of the day, like that's what it's all about. Is that, the people that are close and that as you network and you work these things, you go, listen, I'm faced with whatever problem it is. You go, I got a guy, right? Is
Yeah.
that
Yep.
I think these people can help you, and we can, get in a room and chat, and we can figure out all this stuff, and so it's all good stuff, all
Oh
good
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't even know what you need sometimes until you get to thinking about it. And like you said earlier, Jamie, it's about allowing them to see their passion for whatever that might be and being able to help facilitate it and saying, listen, no, you're not going to do it the same way you used to, but it can still be done. And oh, by the way, have you tried this or have you seen that? Have you seen this individual do it? Or, hey, watch how he does it. Maybe this will work for you. And they can uniquely turn it into something for themselves.
Yeah, 100%. And you guys always, you guys are the benchmark. You set the example for us being able to talk about it and to get back out in the woods and have those passions and do those things that we did as a kid. A lot of times I get asked that question as a veteran. They're like, well, you guys hunt and everything like that. And it's like, well, why would you do that? Why would you take veterans out hunting? And I go, well, that's what we've done our entire lives. I said,
Right.
why? It's what we've done as a kid, and as a kid, you have all this fun and all this passion and stuff like that you're doing, and then you go to the service and you don't have a whole lot of time, service, law enforcement, whatever that is, you don't have a whole lot of time to do it, and that's all that you want to do, when you get
Hmm.
back out and
Yep.
do it, is to get back out and find that peace and find that solace. And you guys always set the example for what that looks like, to go, listen, this is an obstacle that I'm facing, right? Is that I don't necessarily know how I'm going to do this, right? But you have these people to where you check your ego and you say, hey, I need help, right?
Yes.
And you go, what do I need to do? What are the tools that I need to do to have this again? And then
Right.
you're out there and you're doing it, right? And you're able to not only write those next chapters for your hunting stories and all those experiences out in the field that you get to have, but you're writing those next chapters in your life to go, okay,
Hmm.
well, now I figured out how to hunt. Okay, well, now what else can I figure out to do?
Right.
And so
That's right.
it's always exciting.
Jamie, accessibility is, so huge for us. A lot of our listeners are in chairs or need specialized equipment and things like that. And a lot of the projects that you guys have done, your fully accessible 3D range, your 1,800-yard shooting range, um, accessibility's always been number one for you guys. You've built that in. Could you talk a little bit about the physical layout of camp and the 3D range, the cabins that you're building so people can stay, and some of the accessibility concerns that you've addressed on the property?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Is that so? Our facility, we have 2,350 acres of private property in northeastern Pennsylvania, just north of Carbondale. Is that we're about 6 minutes from downtown is where we are. And what we want to do at Camp Freedom is that we want to provide this facility so that disabled veterans, first responders, Gold Star families, and now Gold Shield family members can come there and enjoy the outdoors how they see fit, and whether that's through hiking, biking, just taking a walk outdoors to our fishing ponds, to 3D archery, to bird watching, to mushroom identification, all the way into hunting, shooting sports, sporting clays, to just be able to enjoy the outdoors and do it in a safe manner where you can have that peer-to-peer interaction. As we've seen, is that in the early days of this, is that you really had track chairs were the only way that you could get men and women out in the woods, right? And so you would have these hunting blinds, or you could be maybe set up a pop-up blind where you could drive to a road, uh, you know, move the chair, do your transfers and things like that, and then work it out of there. So what we wanted to do from the inception of our facility, and a lot of people ask me this question about the high fence. So we have 880 acres of high fence that's on the property. And the main reason that we developed the high fence here on our property was that so our our disabled men and women can come there and hunt throughout the season, right? And I explain that is that so our high fence, the every high fence in the state of Pennsylvania is regulated by the USDA. So I always
Hmm.
explain that as my cattle herd. Well, you guys know, being Pennsylvania hunters, is that there's only a 2 week season in the entire state of PA for rifle, right? So when we had that high fence facility is that we can hunt with a rifle in there throughout the entirety of the year. A lot of our men and women aren't able to use archery equipment anymore, and be able to do that. And then the other part with the rifle season being so far into the season is that they get very cold very easy. And so what we did is that we basically took landscaping sheds on our facility. We insulated those landscaping sheds, and then we have basically business chairs that are in there, and then the door is big enough to where we can bring a track chair into that hunting blind. So the high fence allows us to hunt in there all year round. Bring someone in there who may be in a wheelchair, transfer them into a track chair, and then let them hunt with a rifle in our hunting facility. And so it's just this opportunity to get them in the outdoors where maybe they haven't been out hunting in a very long time,
Mm.
and show them, hey, you can do this again. With the right tools and the right equipment, is that you're able to do this again. And the same things that are on the outside is that we have hunting blinds and we have trail systems that are there, that they can navigate easily with a track chair and be able to use. And all of our hunting that's done on our property is a one-to-one guided hunt. So just like you have these five-star resorts that are out there that provide this hunting stuff, is that we do the same for everyone that comes up there and hunts with us. Is that we identify game for everybody, and then once they make the shot, all they have to worry about is squeezing trigger. We recover the game, we butcher everything down, and then they're able to take everything home with them. And so then that just expands into our circle drive. I always talk about is that we have these expansive trails that are on our system, and circle drive is 1 mile wide, or 1 mile long, should I say. And circle drive is this soft gravel to where I can take somebody that comes up there to camp and I can get them transferred into a track chair, and then they can go out in the woods by themselves, right?
Fantastic.
And you guys know how special that is to where, okay, I don't have to be with you, or I don't have to move your chair to a certain spot. Is that you can just go and enjoy it on your own, right? And
Hmm.
this part of the property, it's great because there's deer, there's porcupines out there, there's all kinds of wildlife that's moving through Circle Drive that's there. And then we expanded that to where we put our 3D archery course around Circle Drive. So, to my knowledge, is that we're the only place in the state of Pennsylvania that has an outdoor handicap accessible 3D archery range. And we keep that open all year round. Basically, all you have to have is someone retrieve your arrows for you, and you can come out and shoot that course. So, everything we do is that we try to have that in mind to go, very early on, is that we thought we would see a lot more physical disabilities as opposed to mental
Right.
disabilities. And it's really this 80-20 to mental to physical, to where, we have all these things that are available to it. And we wanted to make sure that that's there because, that's we want to make sure that we can accommodate them as well, and make sure that they have a place where they feel welcome and can enjoy it just like everybody else does.
Yes, sir.
Man, you bring up, I hate to keep saying it that way, so many great points. And the way you explain it is just top notch. I love everything you guys are doing. But, Jamie, so if you had a first responder or whoever trying to come to your facility, how would
Yep.
they go about it? Is there an application process and what's the cost or whatever
Yep.
affiliated?
Yep. Yep. Great question, Mike. Is that so? At the end of the day, is that everything that we do for our veterans and first responders is completely free.
Mm.
Is that everything there on the facility is completely free. So there's three ways that we talk about coming and visiting with us here at Camp Freedom. We have Monday through Friday, our facility's open 8 to 4. So you can just show up with your family and say, hey, I'd like to go fish the pond today, right? Is that you do a simple sign in with us that's there, and then you go and you can enjoy the pond. We have two main policies that we have, the two main rules that are there on the property is that we have zero alcohol on the property, and we have zero canines on the property as well. So you can just come fish, you can come shoot the 3D archery range, or just go for a hike, bring your mountain bike, and just come enjoy it how you see fit. And our staff will go over where you can go, where you can't go, trails and various things that you can do while you're there on the property. The second thing is that we have planned day events, right? And so our planned day events is that, like, our fishing Fridays would fit into this category. We do it on the second Friday and the fourth Friday of every month, to where we have a planned event. Hey, we are going fishing today down on the Lackawanna, so you can come and you can learn how to fly fish. and talk to some of the guides and guys that work with us and get that stuff squared away. We also have, if you go to our events calendar on our website, which is campfreedompa.org, you can look at our events page, and that's where it lists all the various events that we have coming up, like our summer biathlon that's coming up. Those guys are great, by the way, because what I love about them is that you can come there and just sign up that day. They have rifles that you can use. They have folks that will walk you through the course, so you don't have to have this big entry knowledge into getting into the sport. So they're a great group of folks. Um, so those are some of our planned events, like our archery event that's coming up later on the year. That's a planned event. And then we have our extended stays. Our extended stays right now is primarily our hunting program. And that's where men and women, our disabled veterans and first responders, will fill out an application online to come hunt with us. Typically, we get about 300 applications a year to come hunt with us. And then we select 30 hunters a year to come there and hunt on the property for whitetail, black bear, and for turkey. And so when they come here to do that, is that they arrive on a Monday afternoon. We do the safety briefing with them and get them comfortable. And then we hunt on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then on Friday they depart from the facility there. So those are the three ways that folks can come and visit with us. Is that we try to do things for the most part during the week so that we can make sure the staff has a weekend off and do those. But we do have some weekend events, and then we also have fundraising events that go on as well.
Man, I am smiling and shaking my head the whole time you're talking because it's like Disneyland for the outdoorsman.
Correct.
It's phenomenal what you guys are
Yeah,
doing. And with so many programs, Jamie, it takes probably, I don't know, hundreds of volunteers, people working with you and
Yep.
getting people outdoors. What's the vetting process like for if somebody wanted to volunteer with your organization, or how could people help the most if they're listening to this and want to get involved with you?
Mhm.
absolutely. Is that so? We have 13 employees is how many we have to be stewards of this property and stewards of this program. And I'll tell you is that we are very saturated. Is that we have a lot of stuff that's going on. We've got a lot of stuff in the future that's coming down the line that we're working on. So our volunteers are truly our lifeblood of what we do there at Camp Freedom. Is that since our inception, is that now we have over 40,000 hours of volunteer hours that go on there at the property. And this looks like multiple various ways. Is that we have a couple guys that come to work for us on Tuesday and Thursday. They come there and they work like it's their job. Is that they're there at 7:30, they leave at 3:30, and they help out with everything from simple maintenance to working on vehicles, to helping feed animals, to working on food plots, to doing all the kind of things that we need operationally to help us get done. We also have some of those individuals that maybe they can't help during the week. They'll come and they'll volunteer at like certain events during the weekend and help us out with those things too. I also tell men and women is that I look at volunteer time as your disposable time, right? Is that that's time that you take away from doing your fun stuff, hanging out with your wife and kids. So you may only have like 30-minute window that's there. And if that's all you have to give, that's fantastic. Is that we will absolutely take that. And that's, helping us sweep or clean up something or whatever we're working on. It is always beneficial to what we're doing. Then we've also had large organizations come and help us out. Is that the Lackawanna SWAT team comes there and they volunteer every year with us. We have Home Depot does one of their major volunteer days there with us and really help with the beautification of the property and all of the small projects and things like that that we have going on there. To the Williams Corporation and Coterra have also come and conducted volunteer days with their organizations to say, hey, we want to help. We have a volunteer day here scheduled, so we're here and put us to work. So there's lots of different ways to help and volunteer.
Man, it sounds like an amazing place. And I'm like, Greg, if I was a little bit closer, I'd be there beating on your doors every day.
Good.
Probably pop up a tent. You couldn't get me gone. But Jamie, of all the activities that you guys house there, what would
Mhm.
be your favorite?
Oh, my
Yep.
my favorite is always hunting. Is that I go back. I had somebody ask me that a while back, and there is nothing in this world that makes my heart pump more than seeing an animal walk out of that tree line. And
Yeah.
that's whether I'm chasing a white-tailed deer, a black bear, or going to Africa and chasing animals out there, is that there is nothing in this world that gets me going more than that. And what's really special about it at Camp Freedom is that you get this unique opportunity to hunt with somebody and share that excitement with them, right? Is
Right.
that we as hunters, is that you start this as a young man to where you're just hoping something walks out, right? Or you get
Yeah.
to put a little bit of meat on the table. Maybe you shoot a doe every other year or something like that, to where okay, now you've grown in that, and you're working on that one trophy deer and that one that you're on the trail camera with. And then now I'm at this point to where that mentorship and that guiding outdoors, and being with those men and women is so very special. To where you get to see them to where maybe they haven't hunted in a long time, or maybe they're a little uncomfortable with a rifle, or maybe a little uncomfortable with a crossbow or archery equipment, and we're able to coach them and kind of walk them through those steps. And then as those animals come there, is that it's exciting, it's overwhelming. You're able to talk them through that, and then see them make a good shot, and celebrate that harvest with them is just extraordinary. Is that you cannot put a price tag on what that's like. Is that seeing
Right.
somebody do that? I've been telling this story all year round. Is that so? We started out this season with some close friends of ours, that the Eaton family came and they hunted with us, and they have hunted. So the father, the Vietnam veteran, Bronze Star recipient, and had suffered a stroke, and was living in assisted living, and they'd always hunted together. So it was the older gentleman, then his son, then his grandson, right? It always
Hmm.
grew up hunting, and going on trips, and doing all this hunting stuff like that. And so the son had called us and said, "Hey, I think this may be my dad's last opportunity to get in the woods, and can you guys do this?" And so we were able to take Hal Senior with his boys, myself and Matt, and get
Wow.
him on a velvet whitetail that was a hunt of a lifetime. And I cannot tell you, when he made that shot in the blind,
Mm.
there wasn't a dry eye in the
Yeah.
blind, right? And
Yes, sir.
it was amazing. And we're all hooting and hollering. You can check it out on YouTube. We're hooting and hollering. We're carrying on, and all of us were so excited, and just got to celebrate that hunt with him. And shortly after that, about 2 weeks after that, is that Hal Senior passed away, and
Mm.
we were fortunate enough to be with him on his very last hunt, and it was it
Right.
was so very very special. And then we closed the season out with another close friend of ours that had purchased a hunt to come there with us, and he let his daughter shoot a bison there, and that was her first harvest. So to sit back and really think about what that is that I'm just simple Jamie, that I get to have this experience where I get to see the last hunt and the capstone of someone's life. So I get to see a brand new hunter come into this, and
Hmm.
and and start these experiences, and think about what her journey is going to be like as she chases animals and makes mistakes like we all did, and learns from them and grows, and just to start this journey. And I don't know that I have the words yet to really put it into perspective of just how special that is. And that's something that I get to have that experience with men and women every season, and every time we take them out in the field, and it's just really really special. So it's my favorite thing I get to do up there.
That is just amazing, Jamie, and to
Mhm.
be a part of those family memories that are going to last a lifetime for those children to have that experience with their father that he couldn't go anywhere else in the country, and
Right.
experience that hunt, and his boys will remember that. And then the young girl with the bison, I got to tell you, bison's at the top of my list. I know Mike's an elk guy, but I've always wanted to get a
Yep.
bison, and just to be a part of that, their first experience out, and to set the bar that this is the right way to do it. It's not
Yep.
about the tag, it's not about the harvest, but
No.
about the time spent in camp
Yep.
and those quiet moments that you're sitting there and you just take it all in. You know, I
Yep.
I really love to share stories with people. Mike and I are fortunate we get to do this every week and talk to people. And when you said there wasn't a dry eye in the blind,
Oh
man,
yeah.
that's impactful. I mean,
Yeah.
it really is, Jamie. Thank you so much for everything you and your team do there.
Oh, you're welcome. And it's a blessing. Every day is that, I always I always remind the guys is that even the simple task that we do, and sometimes it can be mundane, or sometimes it's not the most glamorous job that we're doing that day, is that it all matters, and it
Yes,
all
Right.
provides this experience for these men and women who are struggling, and who are having a difficult time, and whether that's putting mulch out on one of the trees, or working on a hunting blind, or out there feeding when it's -5, is that we're able to provide this unique experience for them that they wouldn't have anywhere else in their life. And what I
yes,
always talk about for me in my journey, right, is that when I came there in 2019, I'm working in HR, right? And nobody likes HR. Like
Nah.
yeah,
there's nobody out there is showing up to HR's office because they're having a good day. So you're dealing with a lot of these problems and issues, and I was dealing with my own problems, my own issues, and being a disabled veteran. And so I had this experience though that I had at Camp Freedom, and I was able to put that in my cookie jar, right? And so those times when you're having a bad day, or those times when you're not feeling good, is that I was able to dip into that cookie jar and remember those
yes,
moments, and being in the field, and doing that. And so and now we get to create it every day for those men and women that come there, and whether it's simply just going fishing, or taking a ride on the Kubota, is that are we providing those memories for them to help them through their struggles, and what they're dealing with. So
It's always about getting out of your head and home and finding those things that hit your soul bell, if you will, or give you intestinal pride about what you're doing daily. And it could be something as simple as spreading mulch, because you know what that's going to do to somebody's sensories when they come, and you got
mhm.
flowers blooming and birds chirping, and it's just hitting all the right buttons at the right time.
Yeah,
And nature has a way of doing that. You guys are opening up some amazing opportunities, and you have a laundry list of stuff to get into. But something
yeah,
stuck with me at the very beginning of this conversation before we ever hit record was you made mention of the shooting station and having it
yeah,
multiple levels so that even if somebody's not a shooter, they can
mhm,
interact 100% with those shooters. And if they're not comfortable with being close proximity to a firearm, they can still see it. They can get behind glass. They can, get good views of up to 1,800 yards shots. And so that's impressive, to say the least. But then to add accessibility to it, man, you're hitting all the right buttons for the right reasons. And Jamie, what kind of cost facilitates just building a facility like that?
sure. So the range facility that we've been working on, and moving forward with, has been this enormous project, right? Is that our
Right,
founder, Bill Bockenberg, is one of the kindest, most generous men that I've ever met. Is that I don't know of people that would give this amount of land, and allow us to be good stewards of it,
right,
and to help out with this. And early on, he has this great partnership with law enforcement and stuff like this, and you're hearing these horror stories of them getting kicked off ranges, or being double booked on ranges and stuff. So he always wanted a safe, concealed place for them to train, and have all their TTPs concealed, so that they can train safely, and to be able to train to protect us, and do the things that they need to do. So very early on is that we recognized that this was going to be an enormous project, and so we had to do this project in stages. We've been very, very blessed with the amount of corporate donors and private
hmm
donors, that, as we've articulated what this range building was going to do and was going to be, is that they come forward with it. And we did it in stages. Is that the first stage was just to simply log out the particular piece that we were doing, and then to stump that piece, and then build the ground up around it. And then we started utilizing it, and started putting out some targets, and started doing that. And then the vision became crystal clear of what we could do there with a range building and a range facility. So we had architectures come in, and build this, create this thing, and be able to approach private donors and go, hey, this is what we're going to be doing with it. And these folks step to the table. It's that we have so many great people that are around us that are they truly believe in our mission and truly believe in what we're doing. They're outdoorsmen. They're wonderful folks that they just say, hey, how can we help, and how can we help you do this? So they came to the table, and were able to donate the money that was took to raise the building. And what we're working on now is having donors to where a lot of our law enforcement contingencies, we want them to come there and train for free. However, what we've recognized is that to keep this building as pristine as we want it to be, to keep the grass the way that we need it to be, is that simple donations from those departments, or simple donations from organizations that support those departments, are really going to be helpful in the future as we look to project that out.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Yes,
Yeah,
sir. And Jamie, you said it, best when you said everything matters. And
Yep.
sometimes it's the simplest act of kindness that can
Mhm.
make the biggest difference in somebody's life. And you guys are certainly doing that, every day, week in and week out. And it's just amazing to listen to your stories. And the hour goes by so quickly, Jamie, on
Every
these
time.
podcasts.
Yeah,
And we appreciate you coming back and talking to us. But if we could just maybe touch the future, what's the next step for you going forward at Camp Freedom? What do you have coming up?
absolutely. So our fishing stuff is in full swing. Is that so? Every second Friday and fourth Friday is that this Friday. So the second, fourth Friday are our fishing Fridays. Coming up this very Friday is that we have our day of care. You can show up there at 7:45 in the morning, have a free pancake breakfast, listen to Matt Gatus talk about where we've been and where we're going. And what we're doing, and then as soon as that is over with, is that we can give tours of our facility. Then at that point, then we also move into our day of care. Day of care lasts from 10 o'clock until about 1:30 is when that lasts. So we've always got those events that are going on. In June will be our main banquet, or our main gala that goes on at the Hotel Anthracite down there, and doing that. And then we are also working on, we are getting ready to begin a capital campaign for our large lodge. Is that so? We are in the final stages of a 3D rendering for a 79,000 square foot
Wow.
building. So we are projecting that this building is going to be around $18 million.
Hmm.
Wow.
The building in itself will be able to host about 600 people at round tables for our events. And then it gives us the opportunity for our lodge to expand to right at 21 rooms that all each have their own individual restroom. And once again, it's all ADA compliant, it's all handicap accessible, so that men and women can get in there. And then the other part that I'm really excited about is that we're going to have a classroom portion that's in there. So our men and women who may still have their post 9/11 GI Bill will be able to come there at our facility, and we're going to be teaching things like Hunt Guide 101, Fly Fishing Guide 101, outdoor photography and videography. So if they want to, is that if they want to pursue the outdoor industry, or get into the outdoor
Right.
industry, is that we want to be a launch pad for them to be able to do that. And that just spurs on so many other things that we're going to be able to teach there at the facility, and do that. So we're really excited about that. Is that we're working very, very hard on reaching out to donors, and bringing in new donors to talk about that building and what we're going to be doing. So it's very, very exciting.
Wow.
Jamie, man, you guys have a ton of work going. Sounds like everybody there is wearing multiple hats.
Yep.
And, we can't thank you enough for what you do for so many people, not only in PA, just the outreach that we're able to be able to share this with people. We're
Yep.
excited each and every time you guys are on just to be able to share this with folks and show them that there's an opportunity out there. Thank you again for all that you're doing. Hopefully, you get a little downtime this weekend. Probably not going to happen, but man, thank
Yeah.
you again for coming on, Jamie. We truly appreciate your friendship.
Oh, thank you guys so much. Is that it's always a pleasure to talk to you. Just like what Greg was saying, the hour goes by too quick.
Oh yeah.
That's here. So maybe next time we'll just talk about hunting, fishing stories, and do that. But I can't say thank you guys enough for having me on, and really truly being examples of what you can do, right, when you're faced with adversity. and what you can do in the outdoor space is that I always point to you guys about when I meet people and I talk about adversity, is that you guys set the example for what men and women can truly do. And so I thank you guys for setting the example and doing these things and continuing to write those chapters and getting in the outdoors. So thank you guys.
Jamie, thank you so much, buddy. We appreciate your kind words. And folks, definitely check out Camp Freedom and all the good works
Oh
they're
yeah.
doing. And if you have any questions, please contact Jamie or contact Mike or myself. We'll be happy to talk with you. But enjoy your day and thank you guys so much.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, thank you.